You've never really wanted love. Not the soft, slow, ordinary kind. You wanted to be understood. You wanted someone to reach inside your ribcage, translate the unspoken ache, and nod, as if they had lived it too. Because that would mean you're not alone. That you're not insane for feeling what you feel. That you're not wrong for being who you are. You say, I just want someone who gets me. But what you mean is, I want to stop explaining myself. I want someone to see me and not flinch. I want my pain to make sense in someone else's eyes. And when they don't, when the world shrugs at your storm, you question your storm. You shrink. You spiral. You wonder if maybe you are too much, too intense, too strange, too deep. But this isn't sensitivity. This is addiction. An addiction to reflection. You think you're looking for connection. But what you're really doing is this. Bargaining. Hoping that if you're understood, you'll finally be allowed to exist. Hoping that if they get you, they won't leave. You've made understanding a currency, a transaction, a condition for self-worth. And Jung would call that what it is. Spiritual possession. You've been hijacked by the need to be mirrored. You've mistaken external reflection for internal integration. But you don't need to be seen. You need to stop vanishing when you're not. And here's the paradox. The more deeply you walk your own path, the lonelier it gets. Not because no one loves you, but because no one can follow. That ache you feel when people don't understand you, that's not a wound. That's your initiation. Carl Jung warned us. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. But what he really meant was this. Every man carries a secret debt, a hunger to be seen. And if you don't confront it, it will run your life. You grew up learning that to be safe, you had to be decoded. That if you could just explain yourself, justify yourself, someone would rescue you from the chaos inside. This is the first lie. Because understanding is not freedom. It's a leash. Every time you're explaining yourself, every time you're trying to be transparent, to be honest, to be known, you're handing over your soul like a manuscript for editing. And the editors of your life, family, lovers, bosses, the culture, they don't read to understand. They read to control. They read to see if you fit their script. If you don't, they correct you, punish you, discard you. This is why you feel empty. Not because you're broken, but because you've outsourced your identity to the eyes of others. You've made being understood your oxygen supply. And now you suffocate when no one mirrors you back. Jung called this projection. You're not only projecting your ideal self onto others. You're begging them to project their ideal onto you. You're volunteering to become a screen for their movie. And when they stop watching, you vanish. This is how men lose their edge. This is how men stop being men and start being roles. This is how self-betrayal becomes a lifestyle. You don't even notice when it happens. You think you're being open. You think you're being honest. But what you're really doing is volunteering for erasure. Nietzsche called it herd morality, the silent agreement to live inside someone else's values. Because standing alone feels unbearable. You're not addicted to people. You're addicted to being reflected, to being validated, to being measured and found acceptable. This is why your relationships feel like slow starvation. Because you're not eating food. You're eating mirrors. And mirrors are not nourishment. They're glass. Carl Jung warned us. If you keep feeding on reflection, you will die of hunger in the middle of a feast. Because no one, no matter how loving, can fill the void created by your own avoidance. And here's the cruelest twist. The deeper you explain yourself, the more you hope to be seen, the more you reveal your soft underbelly. And the world, which is not neutral, uses it against you. Understanding does not liberate you. It domesticates you. It teaches you how to sit still in your own cage. This is the premise. This is the trap. And until you see it for what it is, you will keep mistaking its bars for a window. Carl Jung didn't believe in surface problems. He believed in depth, in the layers beneath the conscious mind, the shadow, the archetypes, the inherited wounds you never chose, but now live inside. So if you're wondering why your emptiness persists, why no relationship, no therapist, no success fills it, you need to understand this. The psyche does not crave safety. It craves wholeness. And what you've been taught, by culture, by education, even by modern psychology, is to amputate the parts of you that threaten your belonging. They told you to regulate your emotions, to be vulnerable in pre-approved, digestible ways, to explain your pain in fluent, socially acceptable language. But Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That means the monster, the deviant, the rage, the sexual shadow, the part of you that wants to burn the whole thing down and start over. You think you're lonely because no one understands you. But the truth is far more brutal. You're lonely because you abandoned the parts of you that never got understood, even by you. You've intellectualized your suffering. You've made it articulate. You know your childhood wounds, your attachment style, your Myers-Briggs type. But you don't know your soul. Because your soul doesn't speak in language. It speaks in symbols. It moves through dreams, impulses, body aches, and silent despair. Your emptiness is not a lack of connection. It's a lack of integration. What does that mean? It means you are fragmented, divided, split between who you think you should be and who you actually are. And in that fracture, the light of your consciousness seeps out, slowly, quietly, until one day you realize you've been alive this whole time, but you haven't really existed. Jung called this being possessed by the persona, the mask you wear to be loved, to be safe, to be enough. It's clean, predictable, socially sanctioned, but it costs you your essence. You play a role so well, you forget it's not you. You say the right things, feel the right feelings, present the right version of pain, but deep down, a voice keeps whispering, "This isn't it. This isn't all of me." That voice is the self, the totality of your being, the union of light and shadow, the blueprint that knows what you were meant to become before the world got to you. And that self is starving, because every time you hide your shadow, every time you choose validation over authenticity, you feed the emptiness. You betray the inner king to please the outer court. This is spiritual possession. You've been hijacked by the parts of you that just want to survive. But you were not born to survive. You were born to individuate, to become who you are without permission, without applause, without the need to be explained. But individuation is terrifying. It demands exile. It demands confrontation with the unconscious. It demands the death of the good boy. And you haven't been ready to let him die. You still want to be loved. You still want to be understood. You still want to be good. But Jung warned us, to confront a person with their shadow is to show them their own light. And that's why you feel empty. Because the light hasn't been lost. It's just locked behind a door you're too afraid to open. That door doesn't open with therapy speak. It doesn't open with safe spaces. It opens with blood, with fire, with silence, with the kind of inner confrontation that strips away every identity you've borrowed. And on the other side, power. But not the power they sold you. Not dominance, not status, not applause. You were raised to be nice, to be good, to be manageable. You were taught that silence is passivity, that anger is toxic, that your darkness is something to be hidden, or worse, healed. But let me ask you something. Who benefits from your obedience? Because the truth is, you didn't choose to feel empty. You were trained to be agreeable, trained to be digestible, trained to seek approval like a dog waiting for a treat from someone who doesn't even know your name. And somewhere along the line, this training became your identity. Now you smile while suffocating. You say, "I'm fine," while dying inside. You wear peace like armor, but peace isn't always kind. Sometimes peace is war with what you've become. Carl Jung called this confrontation the night sea journey, a descent into the depths of your own soul, where everything false is burned away. It's not therapy. It's not self-improvement. It's a kind of death, the kind where the masks you wear don't survive. This is where the good boy dies, not because he was evil, but because he was never real. He was a survival mechanism, a collection of polite behaviors and safe emotions that helped you navigate a sick world. But he cannot lead you into the life you were meant to live. That life, your real life, begins where he ends. And yes, it will feel like betrayal. It will feel like murder. You will grieve him like a friend. Because he protected you, didn't he? But protection is not freedom. And you were not built for protection. You were built for power. Not power over others. Power over self. The kind of power that comes from knowing who you are when no one is watching. The kind of power that doesn't flinch in the face of rejection. The kind of power that would rather be alone than be adored for something you're not. You've spent your life polishing the mask. Now it's time to set it on fire. Because what waits underneath is not shame. It's not weakness. It's sovereignty. But it's going to cost you. Your comfort. Your certainty. Your illusions of control. You will lose friends. You will confuse your family. You will terrify the people who still benefit from the docile version of you. But you will walk differently. You will breathe differently. You will look in the mirror and recognize yourself. Maybe for the first time in your life. That's what individuation is. Not perfection, not peace, not performance. Truth. Naked, untamed, unapologetic truth. You're not here to be loved by everyone. You're here to become whole. And wholeness doesn't ask for permission. It just arrives. Uninvited, unfiltered, untamed. The man who chooses this path doesn't smile to be liked. He doesn't bleed for validation. He doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. He stands alone, and in that solitude, he becomes more than a man. He becomes a force, a storm, a presence, a man the world doesn't know how to handle. Because he's not trying to be handled. He's not nice. He's real. You don't need more help. You need a sword. Most men today are asking the wrong question. They ask, how do I heal? What they should be asking is, what am I willing to sacrifice for power? Because real transformation doesn't come from comfort. It comes from confrontation, not with others, with yourself. You don't need another journal. You don't need a gratitude app. You don't need a Pinterest therapist who tells you you're already enough. What you need is a sword, a sharp mind, a stable spine, a boundary you don't apologize for. You don't need to feel safe. You need to feel awake. Alert to the parts of you that have been gagged, medicated, and made soft by a culture that fears male intensity. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." That's not poetry. That's physics for the soul. You've been told to process your emotions. Fine, but process doesn't mean perform. You don't need to express everything. You need to contain it. To hold your chaos in silence, like a king holding court with his own madness. That's what Jung meant when he said the shadow must be integrated, not eliminated. You don't kill your rage. You give it discipline. You don't erase your shame. You mine it for gold. You don't avoid fear. You learn to carry it without trembling. And no, you don't share your truth with everyone. You speak it only when the room is worthy. Because silence isn't weakness. Silence is dominance. In a world of screaming, oversharing, dopamine-chasing men, you become terrifying when you stop explaining yourself. Let your eyes speak. Let your absence punish. Let your standards filter the room before you say a word. You don't need therapy to learn how to cope with being misunderstood. You need presence so powerful it makes people question their own masks. You want power? Here it is. Stop defending who you used to be. Stop auditioning for love. Stop tolerating environments that feed your wounds. Rebuild your routine like a fortress. Speak less. Move slower. Lift heavier. Walk alone. Learn the art of invisibility. Don't post. Build. Don't ask. Command. Don't react. Observe. Presence over performance. Precision over perfection. Silence over noise. And if you want a tactic, here's one. Spend 1 week speaking 25% less. Every time you're about to explain yourself, justify your existence, or fill the air with filler, hold it. Just sit with it. Watch what happens. You'll feel powerful. Not because you said something right, but because you didn't need to. The man who is free from the compulsion to be liked is untouchable. You've been seeking permission to feel whole, to be seen, to matter. But permission is for children. You're a man, so write your own laws. Carry your own cross. And when they say, "You've changed," smile. Not because you did, but because you stopped being fake. You were never empty. You were overfed with lies. You keep saying you feel empty, but the truth is, you're not empty. You're overfed. With comfort. With distraction. With the numbing junk food of modern culture. Your soul is starving, not from lack, but from the wrong kind of nourishment. Every time you reached for your phone instead of your thoughts. Every time you chose validation over silence. Every time you swallowed your truth to stay liked. You fed yourself something artificial. And now, your psyche is bloated. Carl Jung warned us. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. You've done everything. Now it's time to do the one thing you've been avoiding. Face yourself. Strip away every role, every mask, every layer of behavior you learned to earn love or avoid rejection. And look, what do you see? Is there a man in the mirror? Or just a collage of borrowed traits? Good student, good son, good boyfriend, good worker. So many masks. But where's your face? This is the real reason you feel empty. You don't know who you are without the roles. And it terrifies you. But here's the secret Jung knew. The man who confronts his shadow becomes more than human. He becomes whole. Not liked. Not safe. Not clean. Whole. That's what you're after. Not happiness. Not peace. Wholeness. And wholeness requires war. With your illusions. With your inherited scripts. With the voices in your head that sound like your father's disappointment and your culture's expectations. This is your rite of passage. Not a retreat. Not a wellness spa. A descent. Into your own darkness. Into your unlived life. Into the fire where everything false in you must burn. You say you want to feel alive? Good. Then bury your comfort. Crucify your persona. Walk naked into the abyss and meet the man you were before the world told you who to be. That man is not empty. He's dangerous. He's divine. He's free. You don't need healing. You need honesty. You don't need fixing. You need forging. You don't need more light. You need the courage to walk into your own night. Alone, awake, and unarmed. And when you do, you'll stop saying, I feel empty, and start saying, I finally came home. If this video broke something in you, good. That was the point. Now leave a comment with, I choose fire. So the world knows you're done pretending. And if you're not ready to walk this path alone, subscribe. Because this isn't a self-help channel. It's a war camp for men becoming who they truly are. Let's go.